Chris Fio.
Yes.
Welcome to Kiss My Art. I'm Boris Garbe, and Marla E. can't be here tonight. This is a special episode of Kiss My Art. The reason you're here, Chris, is because you were our first guest on our live version of Kiss My Art, which films that, is live at Maxine's.
Yes, and I was really happy to be a part of that. Thank you for having me as your first guest. I'm really honored.
And there were so many people there, every table was filled, and of course, not everybody could see it. And people have written to Marla and me whether we could have you again as a guest. And
I know, and I almost am wondering if we could have fit any more people in there. I mean, it was a full event, and I'm happy for everyone that came out. And I'm sorry that certain people couldn't come out, but things happen, and I hope to see them soon in certain circumstances and other events. But thank you.
And like I did when we introduced you at Maxine's, I kind of want people to know that we have your permission to talk about this story because it's kind of all over the place. So
it's very tragic and a little disturbing.
So let's start with that. So it would be fair to say that the beginning of your life was kind of rough.
Very rough. My biological father tried to kill me. He would slap me in the face when I was a baby, and he, on 2 separate occasions, broke my arm and leg, which had me and my twin sister sent to Human Services, Child Services actually, I'm so sorry. And I was adopted 3 times by 3 different families and given back because I was in so much pain, and finally I was adopted by the family I have now.
Well, the really crazy part is that when he tried to kill you, you were 6 months old.
Yes, I was.
And so I think you showed me, he took your body
over his knee,
Where is your father now?
He's dead.
Have you ever had any relationship with him?
No, nothing. I barely even knew who he was until I figured out 2 years ago who he was when I saw my birth certificate when I came back from my parents. And I talked to my father about him, and he said his name, and I'm like, so I remember you telling me James Patterson died when I was 13 years old. Was that him? And he's like, yes, that was your dad.
And what about your biological mother?
I actually have found her, and she's living in Sarasota, Florida.
But you have never met her?
No, I've never met her, and another thing is I have a brother I have never met either, who's 2 years younger than me.
So your father had rage issues?
A lot of rage issues.
And you've had rage issues growing up, correct? What kind of a student were you in school?
I was an isolated student. I mean, I was very quiet into myself, and I couldn't understand how I was feeling. I tried to pay attention in class, but it was hard a lot of the times, and just being confused of how I felt took me out of the class sometimes. And I got bullied as a result of it, and it gave me a little more rage issues to deal with growing up, dealing with bullying, dealing with being on certain medicines to help me with my PTSD from when I was abused as a kid and not understanding why I felt all these things.
Were you a bully?
No, I wasn't. I was always trying to help people not get bullied, and I was picked on and kicked around as a result.
There's a great story you told us at Maxine's.
Yes.
Do you want to share that?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
When I was riding my bike one day, I experienced the hate crime.
How old were you?
I was in high school, so I had to have been 15 years old. Okay. I was 15 years old in high school, and I was riding my neighborhood around on my bike, and I witnessed one of the gay students in my class. He was getting kicked around by 5 other bullies that were in my school, and I stopped my bike immediately and was yelling at them to stop, 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 and they wouldn't. So I ran over there and threw myself on top of the kid. And I'm feeling myself getting kicked around, and next thing I know, I look up, and the kid who I'm protecting is there kicking me too. But I'm not mad at him. I wasn't mad.
So you see this gay kid being beaten up.
Yeah.
You jump in to protect the kid.
Yes.
And then the little kid beats you up too.
Yeah. And survive. He had to survive some way. He had to try and get himself out of that, and that was his way of, trying to survive.
To me, it's a great story, but to me, you're not angry at the kid.
No, I'm not. In hindsight, I'm not. It's, like I said, he was a kid and he was trying to survive. And I mean, I threw myself in harm's way to help somebody, and I did. so he wouldn't get hurt no
It's a
more.
great story because when you first told me the story, you said, I don't want to talk about this, it's embarrassing. And I said, no, that's a great story. It's a really, it's a Chris Fio story. You know?
It is.
So you had a lot of, you went to school, blah, 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 but your jobs, what kind of jobs have you had?
I was a cook as well as a ranch hand, and I also, not radio, but that was more or less my hobby. I was a ranch hand, a cook, and a caterer as well. So I had a lot of experience with on-hand things, you know, dealing with tough environments, and it really helped me because when I was working on the ranch, it helped me deal with my PTSD, being around those animals. And it was a beautiful environment, and it was a once-in-a-lifetime chance for me to work like that.
So this is kind of where you figured out you're really good with animals.
Yes.
Because that's going to come into play later. So then, actually this is later, and one of the things that I found very interesting about you is at first you wouldn't tell me what you do for a living.
Yes.
And then I found out that you are
I'm a dog groomer.
a dog groomer. Yeah,
Yes.
and I love that. Who the hell does, I have a dog. Why were you embarrassed?
Well, it's not like what I used to do. I used to do things like landscaping and being a ranch hand and really high pace and tough jobs. You know, it's far stretched from being that, and it's not exactly a glamorous job.
You can't fuck with a dog groomer. Everyone has a pet or knows somebody with a pet. No one's gonna give you shit about that.
No.
I think it's a great job, and it's a great story, you know?
It is a great job, probably one of the best I've ever held.
That's great. So, you also have some experience in show business,
Yes,
right?
I
So
do.
but really quickly.
Yes, really quickly. I used to be a musician for a while when I was young, and then I joined a band called Freddie G and the Black Elvis, which this lead singer had a radio show that he wanted me to play in the in-house band for, but he didn't have enough characters on the show, so I ended up being a character called the Uberman Child, which I ran morning segments all the time, every Thursday. It was updates with Chris Fio, not Chris Fio, but the Uberman Child, sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, and then I left that, went into podcasting right afterwards. I went to Fiend Fix, which was a pretty big podcast, you know, I wanted more control over content, so I left. I went to One Salty Cult, and it was okay. It was a little more control, but it wasn't fitting my style, and we disbanded that because we both were busy and had busy schedules, especially with now today where we met, starting the experience with Chris Fio, which is taking off.
How the hell did we meet? Do you remember?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
It's actually on live recording too, with on Peter Von Taborski's Scotch and Good Conversation. It's called Lump Licks Everything.
That's my dog, Lump.
Yep. And we met there for a live taping. Aaron took me, and I was kind of heckling Peter.
So here's the story. So I'm there with Marla, my co-host, and we're there to listen to Peter Von Taborski, a dear friend. And all of a sudden, this guy on the other side of the room starts heckling Peter, and I told Marla, okay, I'm gonna find out who that guy is, and I'm gonna kick his ass.
Or have Marla kick his ass.
All of a sudden, we're all heckling Peter because it was just so funny. And you know, afterwards I met you, and you know, Marla and I really liked you. And then I worked with a gentleman called Kyle Eagle.
Oh yeah, Kyle, he's awesome. He's really smart. I've never met someone as in-depth smart as he is. And he's really busy. He's a hustler, and he gets things done. He moves and does.
So he's a curator that works here at Mills Gallery. And I said to him, Kyle, I met this guy. He's really funny. He's got a great personality. Let's make a podcast for him. And he said yes. And that's how this started. So he met you. We started this process of creating a podcast. And I had an original name, which was?
It was called the Chris Fio experience.
The Chris Fioravanti experience.
Chris Fioravanti experience.
And then I couldn't pronounce your damn name. So,
Still can't.
So we shortened it to Chris Fio.
Yes.
And the experience with Chris Fio.
No, it was the Chris Fio experience
The Chris
at first.
Fio. And then
Kyle came up with the idea for the experience with Chris Fio.
And Kyle also came up with the idea of not releasing it until February of next year, right?
Yes, because we were actually going to release this quick, like within 6 months. Then Kyle said, no, that's too fast. It's not going to be good. We want to make this quality. And we followed that, and so far, man's a genius.
And so things started falling right together, you know? So
Quickly, too, as you
PFT
say.
Media, the biggest podcaster distributor in Central Florida,
Yes.
they liked what you had, the offer that we made for them, and you're now going to be released on all platforms in February of 2020.
Yes, and I thank them for everything they do and how hard they work, and to be able to help us put stuff like this together and more things. That what they do is amazing.
I don't think any other podcast distributing company does what they do. The PSAs, the interviews. My God, you don't even exist as a product, but as a personality. You've been in 3 magazine interviews so far. 4 You were just interviewed by Anwar Superstar, the brother of Mos Def.
Yes.
How did that go?
It was awesome. I love Anwar. He's a really smart guy in his own right. And I actually interviewed him on my show. He was my second guest. And he was, a really, really, a really in-depth guest to have. The stories he has, he can go on forever. And and I hate that I only have like 40 minutes to interview him because I want to sit there and pick at his brain forever, but the man's a wonderful person.
My favorite part of his interview, and I want to end with this, he said to you, how are you going to stand out from these 17, you know how many podcasts there are in the United States?
There's over 700,000.
700,000. All right, so how is your podcast going to stand out from these 700,000 podcasts?
Because I'm taking this seriously, and most podcasts out there, they're just shock jocks.
With the exception of every single person on PFT Media.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so just want to point that out.
Just to point that out, yes. Yeah. But like I said, the majority of everyone is trying to be edgy, and there's only a small circle of people that are taking this seriously. And I want to be the gold nugget of that circle to highlight us and to grow us. And I have a lot of great people on my roll so far.
Seriously, that sounds good. It's talk, but what is it about you that's different?
Different? I mean, I'm a regular guy, and there's nothing too special about me, but the fact that I'm willing to be honest about my own ignorance and educate myself from these people.
So I want to end with the Harold Garbe story. So Harold Garbe is this amazing artist, abstract expressionist. He's 95. He's a legend, and you interviewed him. I did warn him that it was going to be a little different.
He was awesome. I love that interview. We had so much fun that day.
So you keep asking him questions, and they're getting a little bit more complicated, and he's loving it. And so your final question to him was,
why should I give a shit about your art, Harold?
Why should I give a shit about your art, Harold? And Harold looked at me, and I thought I was having a stroke because I was feeling. And he looks at you and he said, what?
He says, because I love you, and you're a great person, and great people deserve art in their lives.
And this guy starts to choke, and you started to cry. And that's when I knew this is gold. And because of that interview with you, Harold now is going to have his own show called Lunch with Harold, which Marla is producing. So you're the birth of that.
I'm very humbled by that. I'm very happy and honored that I could inspire him to do something like that.
Okay, one more
thing. Just thinking about that. I want to go over that one more time. Just thinking about that, I inspired someone like Harold Garbe to do something like that. That really, that speaks volumes for me.
And I think Anwar actually came up with the reason why you think you're going to be successful, which is that you have a big heart.
Yes, and I really want to help people out, and I want to highlight certain prejudices in my neighborhood, and that's why I'm trying to run the fundraiser for the Zebra Coalition.
Well, you will have a yearly fundraiser here at Mills Gallery.
Yes.
And the Zebra Coalition, for those of you who don't know, is a place that helps young gay men, young gay women, and transgender people, and it offers them shelter, but more importantly, it helps with mental health issues, And so you wanting to throw a fundraiser for them is a really amazing thing, Because I'll be honest with you, and I think I told you this at McScene's when we had the live, I'm an openly gay man, and I was bullied a lot. And when I first met you, you reminded me kind of the people that bullied me, but I was so glad to find out that you were so gay friendly and that you actually wanted to help, and I believe the same thing. That's why Kyle are giving you the show, Kyle and I, because you are different. There's something completely different about how you approach interviews, how you view the world.
Yeah, because I'm like I said, I'm very curious, and there's a lot of things I don't know. And as, you know, a lower class, straight white male, you know, there's a lot of things that my group doesn't know, and I want to try to highlight it to them, and that's what my show is about too.
So your audience is young white men like you think?
Yes, you know, and hopefully more than that. You know, I'm trying to let everyone know. Anybody who does not know a certain field of something, of what I'm trying to highlight to them, that's my audience.
I think what I like about you personally, Kyle maybe sees it different, but what I like about you is that you're not pretentious. You're not approaching it as if you're an expert. You know, it's real. You know, when you talk to Robert Hill from
he's the artistic director for the Orlando Ballet.
What is it that you said that? What was your question with him?
My question is, so you said yourself that a lot of people think that ballet is frou-frou and all that. How are you going to explain to me, somebody who might think that is frou-frou, what it actually is? And he told me it's athletic, it's sports. These people are some of the highest caliber athletes because they have to make this look good. You know, can you pull off a jump 360 on your toes and make that look good? I'm like, no, I cannot. I can't even stand on my toes.
Did you think a year ago that you would be doing this?
No, I didn't.
How does it feel?
It feels wonderful, to be honest. You know, my life has changed so dramatically, and I thank you, Boris. You know, I can't thank you enough. I mean, a year ago, I wasn't doing really much anything with myself, and now
you're going to change the world, right?
Yes, I feel like I'm on top of the world, actually.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.